No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. We're going all the way so you can score more for your trade-in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV today. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
It's time for the postgame show from Bronco Nation News. We're breaking down the game with highlights, interviews, analysis, and most importantly, you. Give your thoughts on the game in the YouTube chat or Facebook comments, and we'll include the best ones on the show. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now let's head out and join BJ Rains for the postgame show from Bronco Nation News.
We are live following the 28-7 victory for the Boise State Broncos. Traveled all the way across the Pacific Ocean to Honolulu, Hawaii, and it was a weird type of a night. Fired up that you're joining us here on the Blue and Orange Postgame Show. Special thank you to the Blue and Orange store. Make sure you go and get your gear, get your swag for a whole bunch of important Mountain West games coming up. Big trip, 13 days from now, I believe, 12, 13 days in Las Vegas. The huge game in the Mountain West Conference. But you want to get swagged out, go to Blue and Orange store. Special shout out to our guy Travis Hawks for all that he does for Bronco Nation News and Boise State Athletics. But I want you to join in the comments. We already have 73 comments unread and written. I want to talk a little bit about everything that went down. Why was it weird? Why was the plan for Ashton Jenty, at least for a while, from Hawaii, pretty dang successful? My biggest takeaway from this game is very simple. Boise State finds itself in a position where you just need to survive in advance. My day personally started off on Ball Talk's special morning edition this morning with Johnny Mallory. And, I painted a very different picture about what I wanted to see. I talked about 13 carries for 250 yards or 200 yards plus, 3 touchdowns, and do it in 2 quarters for Ashton Jenty. Well, that wasn't the case today. Ashton Jenty finished his night with 217 yards. So we're in that same neighborhood. His third game over 200 yards on the season, but on 31 carries. Now, still, that's seven yards per carry. He also added a rushing touchdown, and then as a receiver, he had 3 catches for 20 yards, which ultimately put him just around that ballpark of 240 all-purpose yards, just shy of it at 237. Did average 15.9 through the air, and did have a touchdown. Actually, he averaged 6.7. I was looking at Cam Camper, who, by the way, was another stellar wide receiver performance for Cam Camper. Didn't personally love to see what I saw, in the last several, drives of the game. Cam Camper looking a little bit banged up. Ashton Jenty came out of this game healthy, but did look a little bit, I'd say road weary. Would be a great way to put it. 30 some odd carries is not 31 carries to be exact, is not the ideal situation ahead of a massive showdown in Las Vegas for, not just Mountain West supremacy, but also Group of Five supremacy. But I go back to so many different things that have happened in college football over the last couple of weeks in different conferences. Like tonight, just down the road from where I live here in Colorado, Boulder did not survive in advance in their pursuit of staying relevant in their conference. In fact, they lost. And, we talk about the Heisman Trophy competition a lot, both on Bronco Nation News and then here in the Denver market. And the two names that keep rising to the top, it's Ashton Jenty. Well, guess what Ashton Jenty did tonight? He rushed for over 200 yards and had 2 touchdowns, one through the air and one on the ground. On the other side, I said it, if you keep winning football games and you keep, putting up those stats and you stay healthy, you got a shot. Because in Boulder, the guy that's competing right now with Ashton Jenty, he left that game in the second quarter, and the blow to CU's team was massive. You lose your starting corner and a starting wide receiver all in one injury. So not much production whatsoever. So you see Ashton Jenty creeping up, and Travis Hunter, the arrow inevitably does start to drop. It starts to go down. And I thought tonight, one of the big storylines from scrolling X and hearing from a lot of you guys, keep your comments coming on YouTube, Facebook, on X, bring them. I want to talk through them. But a lot of the storyline was Hawaii had a really good plan. And that's exactly what I saw. And one thing that has been true, and I'm going to read a quote that has been circulating from Chuck Pagano, who I have the utmost respect for as a football mind, a defensive mind. He had this quote, and they showed it on the CBS Sports Network, which was a strange broadcast, might I add. Just weird energy, everything about it. If you were watching from your home like I was, it just felt like a weird night. The broadcast was weird. The TV angle at the glorified practice field / stadium. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's probably just University of Hawaii football field complex. I don't know. But the Chuck Pagano quote is this: it's Ashton Jenty is unbelievable. I think everybody on this live stream right now would completely agree with that sentiment. But then he said this: if you don't have an edge on this dude, see you later. Well, guess what Hawaii did? They had an edge for a majority of the night defensively. What that looked like, and I want to get a little X's and O's on you, is this 3-5-3 type of a defensive structure that was made very famous in the new iteration. This is an old Bronco Mendenhall, Rocky Long defense that dates back 25, 35 years, but there was a new iteration of it that Iowa State took and made it their own. And it's a constant blitzing package out of 3 down linemen that are oftentimes just head up on the offensive tackles. But there are always edges because you have 5 combination linebacker hybrid safeties. And so you have, a boundary, a lot of people call him the rover, and then a field nickel. What Hawaii was able to do effectively tonight was to have blitz packages coming from the inside or on the outside, but they did a very admirable job of keeping an edge to this defense, meaning that you can't get outside of their last line of box defense. So if you're defending the box, we're talking tackle to tackle, or if there's a tight end in the picture, it would then extend outside the tight end. Hawaii did a really good job of setting edges, and that is such an important thing. There are really 2 in vogue college defenses right now. One of them is the 4-2-5, which is really, like it sounds, it's 4 down linemen. There's 2 true linebacker body types, and then it's corner, safety, and then the 5th defensive back element is the nickel. What I've seen so far is when Ashton Jenty sees a 4-2-5, it is home run city because the edges aren't set with 2-point stance, meaning they are in their stance before. I thought that was a really good plan for Hawaii. Now you got to look at the reality of what Hawaii did. They slowed down Ashton Jenty, but at the end of the day, Boise State had 233 yards rushing. You're going to win most football games that you play with 233 yards rushing. Ashton Jenty, of course, had 217 of those 233 yards rushing. Avoided sacks. I think another storyline from this game certainly happened in the first half, which is great news for all of Boise State, in its fan base, and most importantly for the defense, is Alexander Tubner's targeting call. I'd love to hear what you say about the targeting call. Please jump in the comments wherever you're watching this and consuming this from. I want to hear what you thought about that targeting call. My experience in the last 8 years since this became a point of emphasis across all conferences and all officiating is that if it's in doubt, they're gonna let it stand, or they're gonna turn it over after replay to targeting. I think it was a legitimate call. It does seem like Alexander Tubner does fall victim or is the predator, if you will, in a lot of these targeting. Since I've been really able to follow this program since the end of my coaching tenure in 2022, I feel like Alexander Tubner does get a targeting call every 5th game. Might be fair. I think it's now he's been disqualified from 4 games in his career. But it was textbook targeting. Where I think that it does impact Boise State defensively is just the communication side. You could even see Alexander Tubner in that 4th quarter was communicating. He's a ball coach on the field. The guy is a football savant. He loves the program. He's a guy that is going to always lay it on the line. And he's a vocal leader, and he's an intellectual leader for that back end, that secondary. And the absence of Alexander Tubner, and the good news about it is that it is in the first half, so he will not miss any time in the UNLV contest, which is great news. But Tubner's hit. Right here, you can see Colin Belknap, one of our very loyal listeners and watchers of all of our BNN programs, Ball Talk watchers, that Tubner's hit was the classic definition of targeting. Right call. I want to hear a little bit from you guys, about the play calling. I think there's some disgruntled fan base out there about Maddox Madsen's performance. I thought that Maddox Madsen started the game fairly slowly, finished strong. The 2 highlights of Maddox Madsen's day was the trust that was shown to Maddox Madsen on 2 4th down calls. One that was critical with the game fully in the balance at 13-7. And Coach Dirk Cutter calls a little RPO slant, free access to Prince Strawn, which I believe ended up being Prince Strawn. He had 2 catches for 13 yards on the day. It was a good throw. It was a gutsy call. You got Ashton Jenty in the backfield. If that ball's tipped at the line of scrimmage, I think we're all having a very different reaction, because that 4th down call was on Boise State's side of the field. Hawaii was hanging in there. And that was a big one. And then the last 4th down call, which was almost just a little bit of extra, decor on the win, was the 44-yard touchdown pass on 4th down to Austin Bolt. I do think that that's important for Dirk Cutter to build his confidence in his quarterback, to know that it's not just the Ashton Jenty show, that we are going to need you in critical moments, which this was a road contest, a Mountain West Conference victory, as Boise State does improve to 2-0 in conference play and 5-1 overall. If you're a Boise State fan, so I don't live in Boise, as everybody knows, or most people that are watching do know. But if you're a Boise State fan and you think that, the AP voters or the CFP evaluators, the committee members that are going to put all this together are going to look at this box score and say, yeah, that was an unimpressive victory, I think you're dead wrong. I think that you win by 21 points, where everybody knows that you make a trip, 5, 6, 7 hour trip across the Pacific, play at Hawaii. It's a weird venue. It's always had, even when it was at Aloha Stadium, just different vibes there. And I thought that Hawaii played a fairly solid 3 phases of football to do their best to keep the ball out of Boise State's hands and ultimately out of Ashton Jenty's hands. He still did get 31 carries, but there were long stretches there where I felt like Hawaii's offense, and I tweeted about this on X, Hawaii's offense almost had a service academy feel to it, which was strange because they throw the ball every single time. Braden Shager, who, by the way, the Boise State defense sacked 8 times That was a huge difference in this game. Braden Shager was peppered with this defensive front, even some safety pressures. I loved what defense coordinator Eric Chenander did, dialing up pressures, just kept constant pressure throughout the course of this game. But what it does lead to at times is some deficiency in coverage. But if you think that the secondary performed poorly, I would tend to disagree with you. But I'd love to have it out on that. I'm going to pull up here a couple more comments. This is a really good one here. Why do receivers catch the hardest balls against Boise State? It's like, are you kidding me? I felt the same way. I remember when I was playing at Boise State, one time we played in 2004 at San Jose State, another really weird game. I think kickoff I think it might have been a Sunday game. It was bizarre, but it was a morning game. It was like 9 a.m. West Coast time. And I just couldn't believe, like, San Jose State is not a good football team at the time. The catches that were made against Boise State, it's just sometimes those things do happen. It's the game of football. You know, this ball is not shaped round. It does take weird hops, and there are certain times where a team feels comfortable and they want to go out there and shock the world, and they make those types of plays. And the focus, the prep, knowing that the national audience is going to be a little bit bigger than, say, Hawaii is playing, you know, right now at New Mexico, be a little bit of a different vibe. I think that sometimes it does have an impact on the game. You're going to get everybody's best shot. And Boise State on their path and their journey of their goal, which is to not just represent a group of 5 conference and non-automatic qualifier in the CFP playoff, but to go and compete and win. I do think that anytime you survive in advance, it's a big victory. But going back to Braden Shager on the day was 21 of 36, so just under 64% completion percentage. He threw for 264 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, and he threw 1 touchdown, no interceptions. One of the strangest stats of this game, which was a very strange football game, was that there were zero turnovers. And why I think that's really important is that it was a game of inches with Ashton Jenty's called fumble, then overturned non-fumble, which was the right call. It was close. That was a very close call. The fact that there were no takeaways from Boise State with 8 sacks, just sometimes quarterback like Braden Shager just did a really good job of, even if he's getting hit, he made fairly good decisions with the football, didn't put the ball too often in harm's way. There were a couple opportunities for secondary players to get their hands on some footballs and didn't get that done. Even in the fourth quarter was one that was critical. But I really think that the game completely turned on its head when Ashton Jenty's fumble was overturned correctly to a non-fumble. I believe it was just one play later, Ashton Jenty's wide open in the flat, touchdown Boise State. It's 20-7. And from that point forward, you just felt like the pressure was starting to mount on Braden Shager. And credit to Eric Chenander for not playing, prevent defense. I'm up 13. I'm just going to rush 3 because Hawaii and Braden Shager will pick you apart underneath, and you'll just drive the ball, march it, which they did to a certain degree. But Boise State on the day, let's talk about third down efficiency. Boise State offensively, 7 of 15. That's an admirable number. If you're 50%, so Boise State just under 50% today. If you're 50%, you're going to be typically a top 15 team on third down efficiency throughout the course of the year. And then Hawaii, so Boise State's defense held Hawaii on third down efficiency to 5 of 14, where Boise State really does get that bonus of really being 8, more like 10 of 18, which is above 50%, 3 for 3 on fourth down efficiency. That was big, whereas Hawaii was 1 of 3. So Hawaii really ended up 6 of 17 between third and fourth down efficiency. I'd say good credit there to hold Hawaii's offense to 279 yards. Those sack numbers really did chip away at the overall total yardage there. Looking at the box score here, let's talk about some of the guys that had sacks, man. Jaden Virgin Morgan, big number 5, had 2.5 sacks and 2.5 tackles for loss. Shea Oladipo from kind of the nickel hybrid safety position ended up with two sacks, 2 TFLs, and a really critical one down the stretch. Andrew Simpson, who just is all over the field all the time, ended up with just 2 TFLs, but the amount of pressures that he created on Braden Shager was something that I took serious note to. Rodney Robinson did not have one. Braxton Feely, number 90, had a 1.5 sack, 1.5 TFL. And then Ahmed Hassanin just does what he does, and 1.5 sack, 1.5 TFL. So I was impressed overall with what I saw from Boise State defensively. Do you want to get off the field maybe a little bit more often earlier? Yes. Was the flow of this game just strange? It felt like it just dragged on. Abso-freaking-lutely. We had an official that was carted off on an ambulance. So you ended up having a game officiated with one less ref, and there are not a lot of NCAA certified officials just hanging out in Hawaii there to jump in, which is wild. But this is just one of those games where it felt weird, and I've coached plenty of them. Typically, they're either in a strange venue or they have a strange, sometimes you're in a massive stadium. Like when I was playing at Boise State, we used to play at Rice in a conference game in the early days of the WAC. And it's like a 68,000 seat stadium with about 68 people in it. That creates a very strange type of an environment. It does impact players. It does impact coaches. But I'm going to jump to the text thread here. So I'm just going to scroll through here. Keep those texts coming. Absolutely love it. This is a great stat right here. I did not know this guy. Sky Ship, 28 sacks through 6 games, leads the nation. That is wild. Absolutely wild. This is funny right here. Is that grass seed behind you? I know I live in Colorado, but that's just a fake plant. All right. That is something my wife just has decor wise. I don't know. I just thought add a little vegetation in the background, but never thought about it from that perspective. Let's see here. Totally agree with this, that the game flew by, but yet was also so slow. Yes. And I think that's a little bit when you play a team that is really fixated on time of possession, but even more so when they do it via the passing attack, it's going to make it strange. And, Hawaii with a lot of dink and dunks, drew a few pass interference calls. So there was a lot of referees conferring together that just made this game drag on. But what made it feel like it flew, and I've been through this as a play caller, especially obviously on the offensive side of the ball, is that your offense just doesn't have the ball. Strangely, the time of possession on the day, it felt like Hawaii had the time of possession advantage in this ball game. But when you look at it, time of possession was won by Boise State fairly close. It was 32 minutes, 7 seconds to Hawaii's 27 minutes and 53 seconds. So that's pretty even. And when you do play a team that's either an air raid team or Timmy Chang, the head coach who played in a run and shoot system and has brought elements of it to his role as the head coach at the University of Hawaii. Typically those games, they get about 105 snaps, but it's all tempo. There's a lot of stop clock. So you don't end up possessing the football a lot. And with Braden Shager's day, who, he had 15 incompletions, so there were some clock stoppages, but just overall averaging 7.3 yards per attempt. You're gonna see the ball continue to, clocks continue to wind, and Boise State not getting into rhythm. I'd love to hear if you could drop right now in the comments. I'd love to see a letter grade from all of our great viewers here on Maddox Madsen's day. All right. I'm going to throw a few of these up here. Maddox Madsen finished the day again, 17 of 25 for 217 yards, 8.7 yards per, and 2 touchdowns. A minus. Okay. B plus. Like it, Kyle. Got a B. AJ2 Heisman here. Got some B's. Got a C plus. Yeah, and I agree with this one right here. This one, I think this is incredibly important. Mad Dog taking care of the football. 0 interceptions on the day, and through this season, 2 interceptions. He's now started 6 football games this season, only 2 picks. Just a year ago, in split duty, we won't get into that on this show. Did have 3 interceptions, but also had a lot more throws a year ago that were turnover-worthy throws, a stat that Pro Football Focus does keep both in college and pro football, turnover-worthy plays, turnover-worthy throws. I do like the fact that Maddox Madsen is the right quarterback for this team. And I think he was the right quarterback for tonight because this game was so tightly contested. It was a strange 13-7 scoreline for, it felt like a long period of time. That one just crucial error from the quarterback would have proved to be absolutely fatal. Maddox Madsen on the year right now, I'll have to look at updated stats, but quarterback rating at 167.3, completion percentage hovering right around, he's right in that 65% range. And then the 10 touchdowns, the 2 interceptions. I think you got to love that. That's his career rating is 167.3. Actually, today's QB rating was 167.3. And his completion percentage today was 68. And on the season, he had a 150.2 going in, a quarterback rating, and his completion percentage was 63%. So yeah, I think it just continues just a good flow of the season for Maddox Madsen. And I think the biggest development tonight, by far, was, and I said it a little bit earlier, you were listening. Dirk Cutter wanted to prove a point as a play caller, both because of some of the box looks that Hawaii was giving to stop and slow down Ashton Jenty. But I think it was intentional from Dirk Cutter, particularly late in the game in that fourth quarter, to dial up a play action pass, from Maddox Madsen. Like, hey, I believe in you, and you are going to win us a football game. It's not just going to be, turn around and put the ball in the stomach of number 2 and let him go carry us to a CFP and on the way to his Heisman Trophy ceremony, which after today and today's events, right now, and I'm going to say this, Ashton Jenty is the clear front runner for the Heisman Trophy, the clear front runner. And, even just his 154-yard touchdown run, it was circulating in the national outlets. This has become the player that I think a lot of people are obsessed with watching what he does. And tonight, while it didn't offer a ton of explosive runs because there were 31 carries, you take 54 yards off of his total for the game. You get right into that kind of 6 to 7 yard average, which is phenomenal. Like, that is absolutely phenomenal. I also want to throw some credit in the direction of the Boise State offensive line. Cage Gacy and Roger Carrion, who's out for the season, or at least for extended period of time. Mason Randolph, starting center. That's a tough blow. And I thought Boise State did a really good job in the offensive line tonight, on the road, seeing a bunch of different pressure looks. I thought it actually played one of its better games. Tell me what you think. Give me a grade on the offensive line play tonight. I'm going to get down to these comments. They're coming in hot. Offensive line grade. I agree with this one right here. John Mark Crum, O-line doing work, game in, game out, 100%. A. Logan Byler, A plus. A for O-line. All right. So, for a lot of there was some vitriol on X, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So certainly with over 1,500 live viewers right now, we appreciate you watching this. And this post-game show is brought to you by the Blue and Orange store. Make sure you check out your Blue and Orange store over there at Boise Town Square Mall. I believe there's one there. I've always just ordered online. They have a tremendous online shop, but I do want to make this point that there was that vitriol on during the game. Let's talk particularly in that stretch from, let's just first half, and then really well into the third quarter, even kind of knocking on the beginning of the fourth quarter. What were the issues? Bronco Nation, fans of Boise State, what were the issues? Why was tonight such a weird game? I'd love to hear from you on what you thought were some of the problems that did make this game a little bit closer, at least up until about the middle of the fourth quarter, than maybe it should have been. Is it just that you tip your cap to Hawaii for having a really good, comprehensive offensive plan that played complementary football against with their defensive plan to slow down Ashton Jenty? Yeah, it might have been. This is pretty good right here. Bend but don't break defense. It can get a little bit scary. Right here, I see another one. Logan Byler. Island time, baby. Mai Tais. Mai Tais by the pool, man, by the beach. Get that feeling of taking your shoes off. I've done it before, man. You've been landlocked, and you all of a sudden go and make a trip out west or, to the West Coast, or in this case, you go to islands where there's just water and sand all around you. Yeah, man, it hits you a little bit. You're like, this is pretty sweet, man. I kind of like the vibes here. This is a good question right here. I love this. Chris Kosis. Which assistant coach gets a game ball? I'm going to go with, I'd love to hear all of you answer the same question, but assistant coach that would get the game ball, to me, anytime you have 8 sacks in a football game, and it's done by a slew of defenders. We talked about safeties. There's nickels. There's defensive linemen. There's linebackers. I mean, across the board, it was just impressive. 8 sacks, probably 12. I believe it was 12 TFLs on the day for Boise State. That's 20 plays that resulted in a negative yard gain for Hawaii. I'm going to give it to Eric Chenander. Guys, let's have a real conversation. After Georgia Southern, there are a lot of people on our text thread here on the platforms that were calling for Eric Chenander's head. I thought that he had a great plan for Hawaii. I think that it was a plan that when you do get 8 sacks and 12 TFLs, typically that does yield at least 1, 2, or 3 takeaways. Hawaii did a really good job taking care of the football with all of that pressure in the quarterback's face, with any semblance of run game that they tried to get going, and still having 12 tackles for loss. I mean, when you look at Hawaii's rushing attempts, Hawaii, Landon Sims had 3 carries. Tylen Hines had 2 carries. Cam Barfield had 2 carries. And then Braden Shager had 17 carries, 8 of which were sacks. So then 9 that essentially were at least 0 to a positive gain. That's a really good defensive plan. And you just didn't get the takeaways tonight, because if you do get the takeaways, I think this game's more like what I predicted on Ball Talk. It's the type of game where you get 52-7. To hold Hawaii who did possess the football, did move the ball, but you held them to 7 points. The missed field goal, which was a 39-yard field goal from Hawaii that they did miss, that game might've been closer to 13-10 at halftime. So fortunate on that from that front, but I think that defensive staff altogether, Eric Chenander calling a great game. That's where I would give the game ball for this particular game too. I never felt like, until the very end, I never felt like Boise State from an offensive standpoint was in any type of real flow. And we haven't seen that a lot this season. Boise State, because of Ashton Jenty and being able to churn yards, it just felt like everything was earned. There were not a lot of just wide open dudes. Even Austin Bolt to finish the game out. That was a tremendous pass from Maddox Madsen. A little bit of duress. He had a defender in his face. I thought that just the flow of the game was such that you're playing a bit of a funky defensive structure. Hawaii, what do they have to lose, man? Throw caution to the wind. They live on island time. Just have a little bit of fun, dial up a bunch of different pressures out of that 3-5-3 look and just let it eat. Yeah, I agree with this. D-line coach Kyle Anderson, I completely agree with that. Jabril Frazier, man, my guy. I love Jabril Frazier. He's doing a great job with that group. Let's talk a little bit about Cam Camper to pivot. Cam Camper needs to catch that deep ball to help Madsen's confidence. Agreed with that. That was an early opportunity. I thought Maddox Madsen put it in a spot where it was obviously very catchable. But Cam Camper ended up having a good day, guys. He had, it didn't start the day off as everybody would have wanted to, but 111 yards receiving with a long of 32 on the day. Very, very impressed. Stacey Collins gets a vote right here. And I would agree with that. After the Oregon game, there was a lot of negativity. I was actually on the postgame show for that. And, I talked, it's one of my close friends. I'm just in full candor. And I knew that the type of coach that Stacey Collins is, what he demands of his units, that big returns, a ton of stupid penalties would not be the norm. There was one special teams penalty on the punt block unit. I believe it was an offsides that ended up keeping Hawaii's offense on the field, wet for it with the tush push, the Braden Shager push, the Shagermeister, if you will. And it did keep Hawaii's offense on the field, but I agree. No kick returns for a touchdown, 2-point conversion, field goals, and no kickoffs were out of bounds. I think that was a definite positive from this team. And then I would say this: thank God for our D line and linebackers that they can make plays and pressure the quarterback. If we didn't have 8 sacks, this game might still be in overtime. Yeah. I mean, but it all goes together because, there is a risk. There's a risk and there is a reward, right? And the risk is that you're bringing 5 guys in the pressure scheme, sometimes 6. There's some cover 0 type looks. The pre-snap presentation from Eric Chenander and this defensive staff, from an offensive play caller's perspective and somebody who's had my quarterbacks make, protection adjustments at the line of scrimmage, it's not easy. It's a good blitz package. And I think that Chenander's, his blitz package has really grown over the years. I coached against him twice when he was the defensive coordinator at Nebraska. And that blitz package since that time at Nebraska has really, really evolved and grown. And it is a headache for quarterbacks to try to get the picture solved, because there's a lot of disguises. You can't tell exactly who's coming. They do a really good job with their back end and their safety structure, so that they're not giving any tips, not a lot of clues. So there's certainly been some confusion, and there is a reason why Boise State leads the country right now in sacks at 28, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I would say that when you do commit 5, at times 6 to the pressure, there are going to be some one-on-one matchups. There are going to be some zones that are voided if those pressures are zone pressures, fire zones. And that's just that's a reality. That's how it goes down. And but if you're getting home 8 times, in my opinion, the juice was worth the squeeze, baby. And that's what you got tonight in a defense that held Hawaii at home to under 275 yards. Once again, finishing under 280 yards, finishing with 279 yards, just 264 through the air. If you look at these stats, and we've talked a lot about them, when you rush for 217, your Boise State, excuse me, you rush for 233 yards and you hold your opponent to 15 yards rushing, you're winning. You're winning the game. And especially if you don't turn the football over, which Boise State did not. And, I like this from Double O'Neill. People expected a blowout. 28-7 on the road is it's a convincing victory. It's one of those that you just look at and say, yep, they went to the islands and they won by three scores. I don't even remember what the line was on this game, but Johnny and I, the Vegas line, anybody have that? That'd be great. I know there's definitely some people that have the Vegas line, especially the true derelicts like some of us are, but I don't bet on Boise State, man, never. Line was 20 and a half. 20 and a half. Well, at some places it was anywhere from 20 and a half to 21 and a half. So depends on where you threw your money at there. But man, Vegas is pretty good, aren't they? I thought that line was very, very low. But there were some things that clearly Dirk Cutter and this offense was concerned about with the blitz package, the overall structure of the fronts that Hawaii was going to bring that was just different. When you're typically used to seeing 4-down fronts or just a real 3-4 structure, you have all your answers. I coached against TCU the year they went to the national championship. That was our opening game when I was the offense coordinator at University of Colorado. Just a weird game plan. They run that 3-5-3. You don't know exactly which of those 5 is going to be blitzing. You don't know exactly how the defensive line was going to be slanting. And oftentimes you ended up running the football, kind of targeting that you were going to leave one guy unblocked. And he was typically going to be flat-footed at about 5 yards. And that was weird for me. I like to account for the entirety of the picture and or, do a run pass option to account for the extra element. And the structure it creates some problems. So yeah, just a really unique structure of defense. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, Boise State's winning. Boise State survives in advance. And BJ Rains will have all of the post-game conversations with Spencer Danielson, Ashton Jenty, hopefully Maddox Madsen. He'll be joining us here anytime. He is right now, he said about 7 minutes ago, he'll be coming with all the scoop. But I have absolutely loved having the opportunity to join you, and I will continue to stay on with BJ. We're going to break some of this down. This is a great question here. Mike, do you think our secondary issues are because of our DB coach, or is it just the skill of our players? You're the DB coach that's at Boise State's a really good football coach. He has been a head coach. He's a guy that I have a ton of respect for, Demario Warren. I think that's who we're talking about. He was a head coach at Southern Utah. I think sometimes that if you're giving up passing yards and you're not giving up a huge chunk of rushing yards, you're going to probably win the football game. That's what I would tell you. And then if you are accumulating sacks, there's also that you're touching the hot stove a little bit by bringing 5, bringing 6, that you're going to be okay with giving up some completions, maybe some go balls, some 9 routes down the field. There's going to be some 50-50 contested balls. And so far, outside of the Oregon game, I think that the defensive backfield acquitted itself incredibly well, who, by the way, I know you guys were all watching it. Oregon with a massive win. Nobody in the national media really believed that Oregon was going to beat Ohio State. I did. I called that victory. I'm just not all that impressed right now with anybody in the Big Ten. And I think Oregon is the class of the Big Ten. They're solid. They don't make a bunch of mistakes. They're not super flashy, but they find ways to win games. And they, really the Boise State game and the Ohio State game for Oregon were about the same. Came down to final possession. Game was in the balance at the very end of the game. So Boise State can compete with the big dogs in college football. And I'm going to go on a little bit of soapbox here. There is an absence of elite national level teams in college football. There is so much parity that Boise State, if they just continue to survive in advance, which will be coming up here shortly, 12, 13 days from right now in Las Vegas, will be one of the larger moments of surviving and advancing in their pursuit of the college football playoffs. But Boise State continues to do what it does and just find ways to win games. They don't always have to be beautiful. They don't have to be pretty, because what's going to continue to happen is teams that keep falling, like Utah fell last night to Arizona State. They're done. They're out of this. CFP's done. They're already thinking about next season. They're going to start Isaac Wilson, I bet, and start building towards what's ahead instead of just concerning itself with what's currently going on. Boise State can compete with the big dogs. Any given Saturday, any given Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever they put these CFP games, Boise State can, without question, continue to compete. The only ones that really scare me and I know their schedules are abysmal, especially Army, but the 2 service academies, they both get a crack at Notre Dame. Best of my knowledge, I know Army does for sure. I think both of them do. Typically, that's normal for Notre Dame's schedule. I should know that. But I do think that if one of those teams comes out unscathed, that means they have a win over Notre Dame, who most likely will be a top 15 team, although I don't think they're a very good top 15 team. I do have my concerns about them. Texas, that's a great point. Texas right now does appear to be the one team that is playing really, really good football. But they do have a pretty big slate coming up. We don't have to have a Texas post-game podcast here, but I do think Texas is one of those squads that has not been through the full grind of an SEC schedule. And I'm not saying the SEC right now has any unbelievable top-tier teams, but just week in, week out, the athletes, the size of the offensive and defensive lines, the quarterback play can be highly athletic. So I do have my questions about Texas, if they can really come out of this regular season unscathed or the conference championship. But Texas is going to be in the college football playoff. There's absolutely no question. How about BYU? They go out there, and I think this is a great comment right here. Give me BYU Boise State in the first round of the CFP. I'll tell you this, I'll be there. My brother-in-law is coaching. He is the offensive quality control analyst that coaches the quarterback position. Now that the NCAA allows anybody, there's no on-field, off-field coach discrepancy anymore like there was 2-3 years ago. And he's coaching that team, and I'd be rooting for my Boise State Broncos. I would be wearing blue and orange very clearly. I hate BYU. I've always hated BYU, but I also love my brother-in-law, and it's my wife's brother. So there's that. That would be a whole hell of a lot of fun. Oh, dude, this would be a lot of fun. I want to see Penn State at Boise State. God, that would be fun. Hey, we can all pretend like we are players for Boise State or coaches for Boise State. Even myself, who's conditioned to not look too far ahead and not get over my skis. But we're fans. We're media members. And right now, the path is right there in front for the taking for Boise State. One of the teams that I had my concerns about that remains on the schedule for Boise State, obviously UNLV. We've talked plenty about that one. But one of my concerns was San Jose State. I watched every single snap of the Colorado State San Jose State game. CSU looked pretty damn good, and they've looked bad all year. They've been very uneven from an offensive standpoint, but Torrey Horton is back healthy. San Jose State ends up losing that game, drops to 4-2. I think they have some weird stuff for their quarterback situation. Emmett Brown's a really good player, but they don't fully trust him as a pure passer. I think they should just run with him and let him go. But I think that does hurt them. Nevada. Nevada's been tough all season. Nevada picks up a humongous win today. Jeff Choate, man, the Choder, 42-37 over Oregon State. I am not impressed with the Beavs this year. Not just because of that score line. CSU, who really struggled with Northern Colorado and UTEP, they went there and scored a ton of points. I think Oregon State's got some issues. I don't really worry too much about that. And frankly, not to be negative Nelly here, but I do think that the Oregon State victory in terms of beefing up the schedule, I don't think it's going to carry any weight. I think the big ones that remain for Boise State, it's going to be UNLV, 100%, and that's about it. But if you win them all, and you don't have to win them all by 50, if we're not winning every game by 32, this is not the BCS era. This is not the New Year's 6 era where style points matter a ton. Teams are falling left and right. Just continue to find ways to win football games. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to get BJ Rains back on here. We are fired up to have you right here on the Orange and Blue Store post-game show. Thanks again to Travis Hawks for your incredible support of the program. And we're going to take a quick break.
Subscribe to Bronco Nation News on YouTube. Join the fastest online growing community of Boise State sports fans. YouTube.com/Bronco Nation News is the website. If you're watching on Facebook or X, we ask you to swap over YouTube.com/Bronco Nation News. If you're already watching on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the like button as well. Help us show up higher in the algorithms. All the press conferences, highlights, interviews, live shows, all of our content is available on YouTube. Again, subscribe today so you don't miss any broadcast. Hit the notifications button and turn that on so you're notified when we go live. And again, subscribe to Bronco Nation News on YouTube. Join the Horseshoe Collective and Bronco Nation News at every away game football watch party at the National. It's inside House of Western proper, part of the Western Collective group at 610 West Idaho Street. You walk in, you turn to the right, and it's the bar right there. They'll have full audio of the games. Great deals, including $3 Horseshoe Gold Nails, and 10% of all proceeds goes to benefit the Horseshoe Collective. Again, Western Collective has locations in Garden City or downtown Boise. Try some of their delicious beers, including that Horseshoe Gold Nail, the first beer in the country to support an NIL collective. Check them out, Western Collective, our studio sponsor here at Bronco Nation News. I tell you every day, but there would be no Bronco Nation News without Andy Rowe and our title sponsor, rowpaint.com. Concrete coatings, interior, exterior residential painting, commercial, industrial, all your painting needs, consider the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. And again, our title sponsor. Support the sponsors, folks. Your next painting project, make sure it's with roepaint.com. Check them out online, roepaint.com, or give them a call, 208-991-0567. Power and people, pride in painting. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is roepaint.com. Be on the lookout for the next edition of the Tyson Degenhart Show, sponsored by Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. There's a branch pretty much on every corner, but the easiest, of course, is that mobile e-branch online banking in the app on your smartphone. Check them out for all your banking needs, whether it's a home loan, a car loan, just want to get a standard checking account set up. They can do it all at Idaho Central Credit Union. Check them out online, ICCU.com. Whether it's the Magic Valley, the Treasure Valley, all over Idaho, all over the surrounding states. Next time you need to head to the grocery store, think Ridley's Family Markets. Find a location near you online at shopridleys.com. Again, love the Star location, love the Cuna location. Whenever we head up to McCall, that's the spot we stop as well. Download that Skep app, get savings up to 40% off at the checkout line. And keep in mind, Ridley's Family Markets, sponsor here at Bronco Nation News. Snake River Pool and Spa Patio and Game has been around since 1978. Locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. They're part of the Boise State home team, and they can help you out at thespateam.com. The Raines family purchased our spa. We are loving it. The delivery, the installation, the setup. It was so easy. I highly recommend it. They help you every step of the way, and we're loving, as the weather starts to cool down here, our new spa from Snake River Pool and Spa. But again, the patio and game portion, they've got that as well. Pool table, billiards table, anything you need for the game room, for the patio, they can help you out. Again, full inventory can be available online. They're ready to help you now. Check them out. Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game, thespateam.com. The Raines family found out firsthand just how amazing Matt Bauscher and his staff is. Number one ranked realtor in the Treasure Valley for a reason. The Raines family purchased and sold our home using Matt and his team, Kelly, Cade, Sarah, the whole team, just tremendous customer service. So thankful we went with the sponsors, 243-8222. Check them out online, BauscherRealEstate.com. And again, no home is too big or too small for Matt and his team. Let them take care of you, BauscherRealEstate.com. Check out the Riley and Ridge Show every Tuesday night on Bronco Nation News. Former Boise State tight end Riley Smith, longtime Boise State assistant coach Kent Riddle, together, weekly football talk from a unique perspective. Streams every Tuesday, 8 o'clock on YouTube.
Welcome back to the Blue and Orange Store post-game show on Bronco Nation News. We're joined by our very own, the founder of Bronco Nation News, BJ Raines. BJ, you just had a chance to spend some time with the post-game locker room, getting some post-game pressers. I don't know, actually, the locker room, that's more of an NFL thing. You don't get in the locker room, do you, BJ?
Nope, we don't.
That's good. That's a good thing. You don't want to be in there. I went once at the Denver Broncos, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. But hey, just being there, boots on the ground, seeing it. What were your takeaways in terms of just the feel of the game, the vibe of the game, and what was what was strange about it to you?
Well, I'm still trying to get my mixer set up here, so I'm on the Mac audio. So I apologize if it doesn't sound perfect.
It sounds good.
I'm still working on getting the Zoom and the microphone going here, but it was very odd. Very just a lot of stoppages, a lot of penalties, a lot of different things that just really made it a weird game. And so it took a while, it felt like, to get a lot of the things going in terms of just the flow to the game and things like that. So I don't know. I just it was a weird game. It was sloppy. It didn't look good. And you're ripping the defense. You look up, they gave up 7 points and under 300 yards and had a crap ton of sacks. You're thinking it's a little tough for Jenty to get his numbers, and you look up and he's still over 200 yards. I mean, it was just a weird game that never had much of a flow. I don't know if Boise State was distracted, if it was a trap game. I don't know how you want to describe it, but they certainly didn't play well for a good majority of that game. And then you look up and it's 28-7 and everybody's numbers look great. So I thought all in all it was a really impressive win. It doesn't matter how you get it done. Even if they had won by one, I don't think it would have mattered tonight. You get the win, you survive, you move on. They got the bye week, which they'll badly need here to get some guys healthy as they get set for UNLV in this stretch run. But I thought they overcame some adversity. Certainly wasn't perfect, but still found a way to win and on the scoreboard win rather convincingly.
Yeah, BJ, were there any interesting omissions from the game today in terms of health? Herbert Gums didn't play again, right?
Sheldon Newton didn't play along the defensive line. Obviously, you're without, in terms of the running game, no Sire Gaines and no Breezy Dubar again. I thought both of those ended up being, key things to be without your number 2 and number 3 running backs going into this game. And so one of the reasons why Jenty probably had a heavier workload in this game, finishing with 34 touches, but also because the game was in doubt. But, they were without those linemen again, the 2 starting linemen who are going to be out for a while. And but I thought overall, James Ferguson Reynolds, the punter, not playing again. So you hope Breezy can get back here in 2 weeks and Sheldon Newton, some of these guys. But because they certainly had some key guys. I think James Ferguson Reynolds was out of the boot, was in a shoe today, so I think he's getting closer to being back. But overall, just get healthy, take a deep breath. I mean, it's almost 10 o'clock here in Hawaii time. It's 2 a.m. back in Mountain Time, and they're not even close to leaving here. So this is they'll probably take off 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and land in Boise sometime around 10 o'clock in the morning. So thankful they have the bye, obviously, for a lot of reasons here. But, they can just take a deep breath. It wasn't perfect, but they won, and they can move on to UNLV.
Yeah, so talking with Spencer Danielson after the game, you were there for the post-game presser, I'm assuming.
I was the only one there for the post-game presser.
There we go. How about that? That's impressive, BJ. That's unique. I've had one of those before, whereas me and one other media member just like having a conversation as the post-game presser. But what was the overall tone from Spencer? Talking to him just in terms of, what were his takeaways from the game? Just generally, I know we're going to get to some of the footage. Yeah, and you've more than done your welcome here, going for a full hour by yourself, so we can get your final thoughts, and I can take over and I can play a lot of these interviews, and you can get to bed here at 2 a.m. whenever you're ready. But no, I thought he was he admitted they didn't play great. It was sloppy at times, of mental mistakes with penalties and things, and just wasn't Boise State football there for a good chunk of the game. But good teams find ways to win and find ways to close. And he said the big thing was just finishing there in the second half, finding a way to overcome the adversity of the Alexander Tubner targeting call and penalties on special teams on 4th down. There was a 4th and 6. They called Rodney Robinson for an offsides. That makes it 4th and 1 and allows Hawaii to go for it, and they pick up the first there. There were just some weird plays like that. So I think he was just thankful it wasn't a disaster, and they were able to come out with a win, but certainly a lot still to clean up. And Leon Rice always says this, the basketball coach, and I assume it's the same for football, Mike, but it's much easier to go in the film room and get guys to correct things after a win than after a loss. And so, you didn't play perfect. You had some things that you need to correct, but you're able to still get the win. And so I think that they badly need the bye week, as I said, but I thought overall Spencer was, relieved. Thankful they were still able to find a way to get the win, but obviously they still have a lot to clean up and improve on here moving forward. BJ, I know you've been a fairly staunch supporter of more Jenty carries, just in terms of building the resume from a Heisman perspective. 31 carries tonight. And you did see, you talked about why. A big part of that was that it was a contested football game going into the fourth quarter. One possession game until what point was it? Did it go to 20-7? It was fourth.
My scoring here somewhere. 21-7 wasn't until 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
12 minutes in the fourth. So you're playing your guy. I mean, that's the guy that gives you a chance to put the game away. There's no doubt about it. Where are you at just with, the amount of just overall the mileage on Ashton Jenty as you do prepare for a pretty significant stretch run here coming up?
Well, I mean, I think all the people that were defending the move and saying to get him out of there at halftime are now kind of gloating and saying, well, this is why you did that. So you had him ready to play 34 touches, 31 carries, 3 receptions in this game. So that's obviously from that standpoint why they did it. So he would have plenty of opportunities left when you need him for a game like this. My main concern, and the thing I've said all along, is that I just was worried you're going to have 4 or 5 more times like this rest of the season. Tonight maybe being one of those games where I thought it might happen, where you're just setting this precedent where you're going to get him out at halftime every time you're up by 3+ touchdowns. So, and I'm not even saying they should have played him the entire game against Utah State. Like, just give him a series or 2 in the third quarter, at least get him stretched and warm back up and let him play a little bit in the third quarter. I just think halftime seems way too early for me to be pulling guys. The rest of the offense played almost the whole third quarter against Utah State. So I'm not saying to give him 25 carries every game or to say he has to
to play every game, all game. I just think in the games, especially the Utah State game, I would have given him a series or two in the third quarter. And part of that is because I think they're going to be blowing teams out a lot down the stretch. And if this becomes a precedent and he's all of a sudden missing, 4 second halves and it's costing him some serious stats, I mean, it is what it is. But tonight, he was ready to go. They handled it properly. The kid had a great game. And it was a different game for him, though, Mike. I mean, he had the 54-yard run. But other than that, I mean, it was a lot of 5, 6, 7-yard runs and a lot of really tough carries. He wasn't just running, free for a lot of big runs in this game. In other games, he's had, 3, 4 of these huge ones. He had the 154-yarder, but I thought Jenty really had to work. And yeah, you look up and the overall numbers are super impressive, 217 or whatever it was, rushing yards. But again, and 7 yards a carry is super impressive. You'd take that every single time, but it just didn't seem like it came quite as easy as some of these other games have this year. But he was ready to go. I think that 4 straight plays to start the game, they gave him the ball. So I think they went into this game knowing they're going to run the football. And obviously he was up to the task and had a huge game.
About the first 20 minutes of the program here, BJ, I got into the discussion about, the Heisman front runner. And right now it is Ashton Jenty, clearly standalone number one in the Heisman discussion. I had my eyes on both screens in my basement watching the CU game. Travis Hunter goes down in the first half with an injury. You lose your starting corner, you lose your starting receiver, and you lose the football game. That's a major blow to a candidacy with really a national audience watching, a primetime game in a primetime spot on ESPN. The viewership on that's going to come back at somewhere near 10 million or something crazy like that. All of a sudden, Travis Hunter is really out of this discussion. Dylan Gabriel, is there anything in Dylan Gabriel? Right now, he is number 2 and Cam Ward is number 3. And that's everything I've seen from a national perspective. Right now, Ashton Jenty is 1A, 1B, and 1C. There is no 1A, 1B after this weekend. And I think that's a great place that Boise State finds itself in. I think that the Boise State UNLV game is going to be a complete showcase opportunity, not just for Boise State to the CFP voters, but also for Ashton Jenty, because they're probably going to need him for all 4 quarters to go be himself, which is absolutely phenomenal. The best running back that the college game has seen at least for 30 years. So I do think that the decision to play the long game, both for the CFP and for the Heisman, is the right decision. But BJ, I'd go into this with after tonight's game. It was 28-7. It's a solid victory. You could call it an ass whooping if you want to, but in reality, you survived a scare. You were a 1-possession game going into the fourth quarter with a team that you were favored to beat by 21, which you did beat by 21. All right, but of the remaining teams, does the marker move a little bit in terms of these quote unquote so-called blowout games? You got UNLV. Is that going to be a blowout game?
No.
San Diego State home game. They just beat Wyoming on the road. I mean, they look like they're trending. They're 3-3 right now. They're winning. They're finding a way to win conference ball games. But yeah, that should be a game where Boise State is favored by at least 20. Wouldn't you think? If Boise State beats UNLV,
you would think so. Yeah, you would think that. And then you have Nevada, who I know just beat Oregon State today, right?
Yeah, and that'll be a tight line. I bet that's somewhere between 7 and 13, depending on how the next 2 weeks.
Coach can have them ready to play. There, we talked to him at media days. That he and me had that interview where he was talking about how he was definitely a little salty about the process and not getting the coach. So he's going to have that.
And frankly, it's not just a Boise State thing. He's had his team ready to play every damn week.
Oh yeah,
they're playing really good football.
The Vegas over under already, right? Was that win 3 or 4? I mean, they're already over. I think it was 2.5. He's 3 now, I think. So
San Jose State remains, and I watched that entire game today with CSU. They didn't look great today. They're going through a weird 2-quarterback system. We know all too well about that, BJ. Wyoming's bad, but it's at Wyoming, November 23rd. The wind's going to be blowing. It's going to be a weird day. And then Oregon State to finish the year. So there really aren't. I don't see like 5 games, even 3 games that are like Ashton Jenty's going to play 2 quarters, but it is the right decision. In the games like Portland State and Utah State, where you did clearly get a massive lead.
Yeah, no, and I do like it wasn't necessarily in those games. I was just worried it was going to keep happening. So if that's the case and it doesn't happen, then it worked out great. And like I said, to have him ready to go for 31 carries tonight, and that seemed like an obvious emphasis going into the game. Like I said, 4 straight plays to start the game. I think he ran the ball. He had
13 carries, which is what he had all of last week against Utah State. He had that like early to midway through the second quarter. So you knew the game was still close at that point. So you knew that was going to be the situation. So yeah, I just like I said, I'm not backtracking as somebody on the comments says. No. I think that if you have a guy that has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy, I think pulling him at halftime is too early. I really do. I just thought that the season he's putting together, I think pulling him at halftime is too early. I think if you had done it at the end of the third quarter in the Portland State game and then the end of the third quarter in the Utah State game, nobody would be saying, why is he still playing in the third quarter? They would say it in the fourth quarter. I just think the bar that was set for halftime was too early. I thought third quarter, midway through third quarter would probably be better in my opinion, but that's why these coaches are making millions of dollars, and you guys all know what you're doing, and so I'm not going to question them, and we'll see what happens moving forward here. But they obviously made the right decision because he was ready to go tonight, and he had a huge game. And like I said, it was a different game. He had to work for a lot of these carries tonight. He had the 54-yarder, but other than that, it was 30 carries for 155 yards or whatever. So I mean, he really had to work, but when they needed him to get a big play, he did. And I thought that fumble where he was barely down, that was a huge play in the game because you're only up 13-7 at that point. And if you're turning the ball over at the 5-yard line back to Hawaii, I mean, that could have changed things right there. And so for them to get the touchdown and then they score, I think the very next play was when they threw it to Jenty for the receiving touchdown, and they get the 2-point conversion. You go up 14, you can take a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to have a monitor in front of you or TV screens? What's the press situation like at that stadium?
They're doing the best they can, and I give Derek and the SID staff big kudos. So I'm definitely not speaking negatively towards them, but I think they would agree. Obviously, it's not a great setup. It's kind of some pod situations, kind of some temporary things here. Because I was in a little pod here with about 6 people, and then there's a break, and then another pod of 6. But we had air conditioning, we had internet, we had couple TVs, so it was better than it could have been. I'm down about the 10-yard line, so I'm a little further down maybe than usual, but all in all, for what they're dealing with this temporary stadium here, it was okay. But yeah, we did have some monitors, and we were looking at them often tonight with the targeting calls and the fumbles and everything else that was going on.
Did you think that the Ashton Jenty, this is one that, I always put myself in devil's advocate. I'm a Hawaii fan, right? Do you feel like it was conclusive evidence to overturn? Because the angle I saw, there was almost like an obstruction of if there was any wiggling of the football when the knee did hit. And so, that was the only thing I saw, because it was called a fumble on the field, recovered by UNLV, which would have made it 13-7 and that's a UNLV with Hawaii having the football. I've already moved on, but I mean, I don't know that it was, I think it was the right call. The spirit of the call was 100% accurate, but was there clear conclusive evidence to overturn? I don't know.
And that's the thing, because it's like whatever they call on the field, sometimes like they're going to let the play go or make a call, and then it's like we see those plays at the goal line all the time where you're sure a guy got in, you're sure he got across the line, but if you can't actually see the ball across the line, you can't give it to him. And so we see plays like that happen. And I thought there was one angle, I think from behind, where you just see his butt start to get on the ground, and the ball looks like it's still up in the top of his hand. It hadn't quite come out yet, but it was super close. It would not surprise me if they would have kept it the way it was. I actually thought, was it Rodney Robinson, I believe, somebody had a play where they stripped the ball and it was a fumble recovery and Boise State got it, and they originally ruled that a fumble and then went back and changed that one as well. Yeah. So there was a couple of close calls like that were big swings in the game.
Yeah, I think that one with Rodney Robinson, I think it was him on the strip, or at least he may have had the fumble recovery. Shea Oladipo might have had the strip, and then Rodney Robinson the recovery. That one in particular, because of the situation that did arise with a back judge. Was it a back judge or a side judge?
It was very scary. The back judge.
What was that, BJ? Because I couldn't really get the full gist from the TV copy of what I watched.
Gregory Rattler Jr. They're getting ready for a kickoff, and all of a sudden I see Dale Holste and a couple people on the sideline just yelling and pointing to people like, go, this guy needs help, and they're pointing, and he was just kind of down on one knee, or kind of down. He hadn't like fully collapsed or anything, but was kind of lowered down on the field. And from my understanding, has just had some respiratory problems, was maybe having trouble breathing. My head was going, my heart was going to the worst at that point because they were bringing out an ambulance and a stretcher, and you're hoping he's not having a heart attack, or you just don't know what's going on. And so it was
how long of a break was that? Like how long did it take?
I want to say 10 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
It was that was a lengthy delay, but he was, and then they had the what do they call the other judge that's on the other side of the field typically, the umpire, I guess. I believe they had the umpire just switch to the he's usually on the offensive side with the referee. He switched to the defensive side, kind of back there by the linebackers where the back judge had been. They did not have another referee to take over, but that was scary. You had the 2 targeting calls reviewed. There was another injury on the Hawaii sideline that took a while, and they had to go to another break. But it was a weird game like that. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it was certainly different. Well,
I'm getting chastised here in the chat for the Ashton Jenty blowout talk. You asked me the question about it. So Guy says we need to turn this into a drinking game whenever I bring it up. But you were the one that asked me my thoughts on it here. So.
Yeah, no, because I hadn't had a chance to hear your take. Johnny ball game this morning.
I'm happy to talk about it, but I didn't go out of my way to bring it up. I was asked a question about it, and I made the answer.
I found it interesting because just in the sense that tonight looked like it should be on paper, maybe a blowout game. It didn't end up being that. And ultimately, Ashton Jenty had 31 carries for 217 yards, and everything's good. And the best part about that, it lines up well because of the 13-day layoff until you're playing again. That bodes well for Boise State. It bodes well for the overall health of Ashton Jenty. And at any position, it's running back. That's the number one position where rest and recovery has a big impact on how effective you're going to be the next time out. And I think this is all a real big positive for Boise State.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So Brandon says you bring it up every chance on each episode. Again, Brandon,
I brought it up. We're good.
Pay attention, man. I didn't bring it up. That stuff ticks me off. It's 2:00 in the morning here. But a lot of fans made the trip. I thought it was a great crowd. I don't know if they showed the crowd. TV. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
They kept showing the Boise State section. I was like, damn, that's deep.
Fans, spread throughout the rest of the crowd too. I mean, they had a nice crowd. I feel for Alexander Tubner, man. I know you probably talked about it, but his family comes all the way over here again, and he gets ejected for targeting. And I mean, I don't know how you coach that out of a guy, Mike. I mean, just he's being aggressive. I don't think he's a dirty player or a headhunter by any means, but he goes right up to that line, and it seems like he just has barely gone over it already, a couple times in his career here.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Is this his 4th career ejection? That's what I was under the impression was 4.
The Oregon one was BS because they came back later and said he shouldn't have got kicked out, but I mean, he was technically kicked out
last year. Didn't he have one against? Oh man, I can't remember what game it was.
Crazy too, because early on in his career, if you remember right, he was the one that was coming in to replace when JL Skinner got kicked out for targeting. There was multiple times, I think twice, where JL Skinner got kicked out for targeting, and the backup safety that came in to get the time and save the day was Alexander Tubner, and now he's the one that's getting kicked out for the targeting, and someone else is having to come in. So he goes right up to that line, but you got to find a way to not make that kind of play, because that was a huge swing when he got kicked out of the Oregon game, and it looked like I think they scored the next drive after, or at least moved the ball after he got kicked out in this one tonight.
Bro, the safety position, a lot of the different places, I think when I played, and then other places that I've coached different spots, when they break down, like after a practice, they break down on headhunters on 3. I think Boise State should not break down on headhunters, and I don't think they do. Certainly in this day and age of college football, those breakdowns were before the targeting was such a huge emphasis across NCAA and pro football. Although I do want to bring up a good point, because I watched another game today. I don't remember. I watched 62 games today. I was joking about it. My
did Colorado or K-State? Did K-State come back and win?
Yeah. So yeah, that's why this K-State won. They threw a bomb, and then Shador, they ended up getting, they went 4 and out on the game winning drive. So that was it.
Go back. I've still got a story to write, and we're going to keep the show going for a little bit, but I miss all these games when we're covering these games. And I'm sure when you were a coach, you miss all the games. I can't wait to go back and turn on Sports Center and try to catch up on football, because I'm trying to read a couple tweets here and there, but there were some great games today, and I missed pretty much all of them.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel right now with the NFL because I'm always at the Broncos game. So I have the other games going on, but you get there an hour and a half early, so you're missing the 11 o'clock slate. I'm starting to feel that a little bit on the media side. It's very unique, very different. But yeah, I think this whole targeting deal in whatever game I did watch, somebody was thrown out in the first 3 snaps of the game. It was and it was a team that was traveling, and they showed his family, and I'm like, dude, you imagine and a lot of people do travel to games. My parents traveled to games when I was a backup quarterback. So it's like they went there just to see me play football. But a lot of people do want to have that chance to see their son play, in a big environment or in Hawaii, a unique environment. You spend all that money to get there, and all of a sudden 3 plays in, or in Alexander Tubner's case, probably about 20 snaps in, 15 snaps in.
Yeah, and I saw his dad. I mean, his family was here too.
Yeah, and it's an absolute bummer. I like what the National Football League has done. I know that I think that college football with this NIL space, I don't know how they can enforce it. Is it a percentage cut when it does go to fair equity sharing across sports, and but I don't like the fact that you're taking players out of the game. That most of the time nowadays, it's not for the spirit of the targeting rule. It's being caught in a compromising position, whether it's a quarterback that's sliding at the last second and you're going in for a tackle thinking the quarterback's going to juke you, and now your head's in the way of the slide. There's just so many instances of it, and I think the NCAA really needs to look at it because the NFL they don't eject players. They will have suspensions down the road if it's egregious, if it's something that is truly headhunting. But right now in college football, I think it's getting to the point you are paying players. Is there some type of fine system? Do they go back and review it for a suspension next game? I think that's a fair rule. I think unless you're doing something that is so out of bounds, I don't think you should be ejected from a game.
Yeah, it's a tough call. What I hate is that one guy up in a booth, makes that decision, and one guy in the, up here in the press box can determine the rest of the game for a kid like that. He only gets a certain number of games to play in, and it's one guy's decision whether or not this kid's going to get to finish and play, and as a senior and be, with his family there, and just the whole thing kind of, I don't know what they do. They obviously did it for a reason, to try to take the head hits and the dangerous hits out of the game, but I think at times the spirit of the rule sometimes, where a kid obviously is not doing it on purpose, obviously not whatever, just doesn't get taken into account. But it's 2:15 in the morning, man, for you. So why don't you give your final thoughts here, and I'll play some interviews and keep this thing rolling myself.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the NCAA tournament. This is one of those games that is almost like Kentucky basketball survived St. Bonaventure in the round of 32, and everybody's, the world's coming to an end. You just got to survive in advance, and that's where Boise State finds itself. I do think there's going to be some more tightly contested football games. I think you do have to shift the bar in terms of, this game did show that Boise State's not going to necessarily just show up, and Ashton Jenty's going to go for 54, 75, and 83 on 3 of his first 7 carries. Hawaii had a really good plan defensively, that 3-5-3 with really well set edges. I think it made Ashton Jenty earn a majority of his carries tonight. I think that's not a bad thing for Ashton Jenty. He was able to showcase more of his full skill set. I felt like his night tonight was a little bit more like last season, where you saw you're like, this dude is really good, but there weren't those like wow moments in the home run after home run after home run. That's fairly new to me from watching last season to this season. Ashton Jenty has solidified himself as the number 1 Heisman Trophy candidate, and Boise State stands right now without question as the number 1 non-AQ conference team for the college football playoffs. But they are going to be tested, BJ, and I think they're definitely going to be tested 13 days from today. The bye week comes at the right time. UNLV was able to get rid of their wounds, and we'll talk about that obviously in the next 13 days a ton. But I think it was a great win to find a way on the road in a weird environment to just win, and you won by 21 points. You survived, you advanced. Maddox Madsen did what he needed to do. I think Dirk Cutter showed extra trust in him, calling some pass plays on 4th downs. I think that was big for the confidence of Maddox Madsen, knowing that his play caller believes in him. It's not just the Ashton Jenty show. So some positives came out of tonight. It was weird, it was strange, bizarre, but you win by 21. Broncos win.
Well, I think this is about 15 and a half hours after you hosted Ball Talk this morning. So long day for you, Mike. We appreciate it. Great work. We're going to hear from Spencer Danielson, but really appreciate you jumping on. Awesome work on the post-game show, man. And we'll be talking to you on the next edition of Ball Talk here real soon, man.
Sorry for being a little bit. If I X out right now, I don't end the stream, do I?
I don't believe so. Because I'm in there now. You should be good.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to minimize it, and we'll just let it eat.
Should be good. I'm going to play Spencer Danielson here. Appreciate you, Mike. Great work, Mike Sanford. Spencer Danielson, this is an exclusive interview talking with Bronco Nation News. Again, the only local media outlet that made the trip over here to Hawaii. So here's my my interview with Spencer Danielson after the game.
Players really buying in, shutting him out in the second half. 9 sacks. Jaden Virgin, 2.5 sacks. Ahmed, a sack and a half. Shea Oladipo, I think 2 sacks. And Shea had to move to dime because of Alexander Tubner getting kicked out of the game. I mean, that's just a testament to him as a senior. So proud of Shea, our defense. And then, I mean, even our offense coming out in 2, I think it was 90-yard drives to finish the game. I mean, we build our team to win games in the fourth quarter, especially in our conference on the road. We build our team for that. We build our team to find ways to win in the fourth. And we're a firm believer you finish what you start in this game. And it doesn't matter what got you the fourth, you got to find a way to finish. So proud of him. Proud of Ashton Jenty. I mean, he's an absolute war daddy. He's the best player in the country. 31 carry, I think, for over 200 yards. And it was tough yard. I mean, that was number 1 ranked defense in our conference for a reason. Those guys flew around. They had a great plan of attack. And he just kept battling. On the big run that he hit, Chase Penry had a huge block that popped it open. I mean, that's our team. It's not one player. It's not one side of the ball. It's a team. And I'm proud of our guys coming out battling. Cam Camper at over 100 yards receiving. He's becoming one of the best receivers in our conference. That young man works his absolute tail off, loves his teammates, lives in the training room, and he's become an absolute matchup issue for defenses. Austin Bolt, another touchdown. I mean, it was a great team win. It was not perfect. There's a lot that I'm excited to go in and look at and clean up. But on the road, with the travel, all this stuff, you got to find ways to win these games in our conference, and I'm proud of our team.
Just the slow start and some of the penalties and just kind of uncharacteristic. Yep. Was that just the Hawaii flu early on, or what was kind of the reason for that?
we got to learn and grow, BJ, because there's a lot out there. We left a lot on the table. I mean, there's offsides penalties that give first downs. There's misalignments, bad on. Like, there's so much that we're excited to look at, BJ, to clean up, because that's our job. I mean, regardless of the win, it's always what do we learn, where are we growing to. But I'm just proud of our team, and I gotta give Jesus a shout. I mean, thank you, Jesus, for the victory. I mean, we serve a champion, and our guys understand that. I'm so thankful for the victory, but there's still a lot to clean up.
To be 13-7, and they have the ball. I mean, just as bad as it was, to still find a way to win. And I know the final score looks maybe not necessarily how close this game was for most of it. I mean, what did it take? How were you guys able to pull it out?
Yeah, I mean, our guys believe it keeps swinging. I mean, it doesn't matter what happened before. If you're up big, down big, it's a one-score game. Keep swinging. Stay in the fight. Trust your training. And that's what we talk about. I mean, our guys work their tails off. I mean, if you come to practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, you're not seeing a group of guys just trying to go through the motions, try and get their fits to stay safe for Saturday. This group works their tail. They do not run from hard work. And I believe that hard work and everything you get from that, everything you saw on Saturday is earned. And so there's still a lot of things we need to improve on. And so I'm excited to do that. But I got to give our guys a shout out, man. I mean, it's a huge win on the road, but still a lot of things out there that we got to grow.
You mentioned Ashton. I mean, he got his yards, but it took a lot more effort tonight. 34 touches, I think. Just a different style of game for him. Still had that the one big one, but a lot of them he was just grinding out 5, 6, 7 yard runs.
No, I mean, he's a war daddy. I mean, that's who he is. He puts the team on his back. He never flinches. If it's 1 yard gain, 20-yard gain, whatever it is, tackle for loss. I mean, he just kept battling, kept at it. And that's what our team is. That's what we're built for, is stay in it. Stay in it. Doesn't matter if it's going to take 4 quarters or 5 overtimes. Stay in the fight. So like I said, there's so many things that I'm proud of our team. We'll look and grow from what we need to.
How big was that play when he got rolled down on the fumble and then you guys ended up scoring right after?
It was huge. I mean, and you don't know in that situation. We got the defense there too. Like, hey guys, I don't know how this is going to go. Looking at the replay, it looked like he was clearly down. So we kind of had a good confidence that it was going to go our way. But you never know. I mean, it can go a bunch of different ways. Our defense was ready to play backed up football and go to work. So, I mean, this game is all about response. Things go your way, How are you responding to them? And I'm proud of our team response. Some things went away. Some things we think we get a fumble. Then they review it and you don't. The offense is in the red zone going in. It's how you respond to things is everything. So I'm proud of our guys staying in the fight. They kept swinging. And like I said, it's a testament to them.
You mentioned that.
Speaking of of responding to things? First quarter, even a little bit in the second quarter, a lot of long delays. How did you keep the team focused and warm so they didn't get cold?
Yeah, there's always adversities in a game, and it could be some that you share with your opponent. It could be some against you. We had a lot of long delays to start the game, and our guys stay in it. We just talk. To me, it's a process. Like, football is a game of momentum. To get momentum, it's about execution. So if something's not going your way, they had that touchdown in the second quarter. How do you get it back? Momentum is created through execution. So I'm proud of our guys going back to the drawing board and cleaning things up. They came out strong in the second half. Still a lot to clean up. Still a lot of things you look at and you're like, man, we're better than that. And that's what excites me.
Defensively, I mean, you gave up some third and longs, and fans on social media are getting frustrated. All this, then you look down, they got 7 points, and I mean, 274 yards and all the sacks. I mean, at times it didn't look pretty, but the final numbers look great, and they dominated tonight.
I'm proud of our defense. I mean, especially last week, we were very inconsistent. We left a lot of meat on the bone last week. What did we learn? Where did we grow to? And once again, there's still some things on film that we can't let happen. Like I said, we jump off sides on a fourth down. Those are little things that you can control. We got to fix those, but I'm proud of our defense. I mean, 9 sacks, to come out the way they did, shut them out in the second half, find a way to go win the game. I'm proud of them, still excited where we can grow to.
With all you guys are playing for this year, I mean, and the way it wasn't looking super great for a good chunk of the game, I mean, just to pull it out, and now, Jenty gets his numbers, you get the win, and now you get the bye, you get home safely and get to kind of reset here for, the final stretch, I guess. Just big picture, how you feeling right now?
Yeah, BG, I'm proud of our team. And like I said, I love this team. I mean, they do not run from hard work. Everything's earned here, and so I'm proud of them doing that every single day. And as a coach and as our staff and our players included, we're going to look at the first 6 games and see, in a bye week, it's all about us. Okay, where do we need to improve on in all 3 phases? Where can we be better? Schematically, fundamentally, technically, we got to get some guys healthy. We got some guys banged up, so I'm excited to do that. But I love this team. I mean, it's a team that loves each other. Everything they do is for each other. We give God the glory. Like, I'm proud of where we're going.
There he is, Spencer Danielson, talking after the game. Appreciate him. Again, Bronco Nation News catching up with Spencer, and that was the only local media outlet. You had the SID ask one question there, but nobody else was there. The Associated Press was there, but I was impressed with Boise State tonight. Again, didn't start out great, but they obviously finished strong. And you know what? When you look back later in the season, every championship season, every storybook season has a game or two like this, where there's a chance the season could get ruined. You're feeling like the dream is done. They're going to lose. It's going to be a horrible loss. You find a way to win it. It's not pretty. And when you look back, you're like, that was the game that saved it for us. And I think tonight could be one of those games. How about Cam Camper? Let's hear from Cam Camper. I had a chance to go one-on-one with Cam Camper after this game as well. He finishes with, let's see what the final numbers were here for Cam Camper. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Looking on the fly here at my stats. Cam Camper, 7 catches, 111 yards for Cam Camper. He didn't score a touchdown, but 7 for 111. The passing game got going tonight. Again, let's hear from Cam Camper talking with Bronco Nation News after the game.
What's the feeling like?
It's definitely a good feeling to get a win, especially away. I mean, we knew it was going to be a tough game based off the tape, but we figured out to finish with the win.
Just some of the penalties and just some stuff that you guys typically don't have problems. Is that just, I don't know, the distractions of Hawaii, or just getting off to a slow start, or what do you think was going on?
I mean, I just think it's just football. Stuff like that happens, but you got to be able to shake back from it.
And what does that say, that you guys were able to kind of put the slow start behind you and still put up on the scoreboard a pretty impressive win?
It's a team that's together. It's going to continue to fight to the end. I mean, we've been through harder stuff during the offseason, so that was nothing.
I know we've talked about you and Maddox and your connection just continuing to get stronger. What was it like out there tonight?
It was great to get out there and get a lot of touches out there. When we out there, I pretty much kind of got a feel like when the ball coming my way, so I just make sure I get to the right spot for him.
Some big third down conversions too, some third and longs and stuff. Is that a down for you, that you got to get to the sticks, and you like that? I
mean, that's for everybody. I mean, I feel like the whole core know they got to get to their spot with a little bit of urgency, so we can make the play for the quarterback.
What every game Ashton continues to do it is a little different tonight. He had to have 34 touches, but just to still look up and see him with 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, does he continue to amaze you?
Yeah, he definitely does. I mean, we already know, like, if it's not going too good for him in the beginning, like, one of them is gonna pop, and for sure, like, one of them pop for him. So
to get the passing game going too, so they can't just put everybody in the box and try to stop him? Like, how important is it to continue what you guys have done these last couple of weeks, getting the passing game going?
It's definitely important to get you a pass game going because, I mean, teams are going to continue to try to slow down Ashton, so we gotta figure out how to improve our game in the pass game.
How much, I mean, I don't know what your goals were when you decided to come here, but how much fun are you having right now here?
I'm having a lot of fun out here. I mean, it's good to see the Bronco Nation travel with us. So that was really cool to see.
Just coming all the way out here, 6-hour flight, everything going on. I mean, just to be leaving here with a win. What is the overall feeling like?
It's definitely a good feeling. I enjoy Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii. I mean, I didn't do a whole lot, but just the scenery was great for me. And then to finish out with a win was cherry on top.
And to have the bye now and just be 5-1 and still being undefeated in conference and all your goals still attainable right there. I mean, just what's as a team, you guys got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, we definitely feeling good, but we know we got to keep stacking days because, I mean, we got a long season.
There he is, Cam Camper. Appreciate him for jumping on Bronco Nation News on the post-game show after Boise State wins this one again 28-7. Cam Camper speaking exclusively with Bronco Nation News after he goes 7 catches, 111 yards after this one. Let's hear from Jaden Virgin Morgan. How about Jaden Virgin Morgan? Big game for him as well. He finishes with 2.5 sacks, I believe a career high 6 tackles. Big game for Jaden Virgin Morgan, part of a Boise State defense that once again put up just some massive numbers in this one. Let me, I think it was 8 sacks. I don't know, maybe I got credited with 9. Let's see what the final number was here on the sacks. It was 8 sacks for 38 yards for Boise State's defense. And again, Jaden Virgin Morgan, a team high 6 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. Let's hear from the edge rusher speaking with Bronco Nation News after the game.
So what's the feeling like?
It's great. I mean, it's great that we were able to finish. We shut them out in the second half. That was our biggest emphasis through this week was to finish, and we were able to do that this week. So
just some penalties, some weird plays, just kind of a uncharacteristic first part of the game for you guys. What was kind of going on?
It was I could say it was. I feel like we just fought through it. There was a few issues, but we were able to work them through. So.
The pressure you guys got. I mean, to obviously came in with a lot of sacks, but to get as many as you guys did tonight and disrupt their passing game the way you did, how'd you do that?
It's just our pressures. I give it up to also our back end being able to hold down the receivers, do good coverage, and then it gave us enough time to get to the back and pressure the quarterback or sack the quarterback.
You obviously got in there yourself a couple times. A big game for you. How did it feel to contribute the way you did?
Great. It felt great. It feels like a lot of hard work paid off. So.
Defensively, I mean, you know, at times they were getting some 3rd and longs. It felt like it was kind of frustrating. They're moving the ball, but then you look up at the end of the game and they got 7 points and under 300 yards. I mean, what did it feel like for you out there?
One of our bigger emphasis is stopping them on 3rd down, and we weren't able to do that as well as we wanted to tonight. But obviously, we were able to hold them down to 7 points for the entire game. So that's a great thing to see, and keep them under 300 yards as well. So
kind of a weird game with some of the injuries and the referee getting hurt and just all the targeting reviews and everything. Was it just kind of hard to get in the flow at times?
Just a little bit. It was a little bit harder, especially when you get like the bigger breaks. You want to make sure you stay warm, and then offense is on the field for a long time. We want to stay warm, so that was one of the bigger things. And then getting into a flow of it, I feel like we were still able to keep our flow whenever it would stop.
I mean, just overall to have the slow start and find a way to still win and on the scoreboard win pretty impressively. What does that say about you guys?
It's great. I mean, it shows that we can finish. It shows that we can work as a team. We can trust each other.
And big picture, to come over here and get the win and now get the bye week and be at 5-1 and be undefeated in conference play and just kind of be still on track for all your goals. I guess just big picture, what's it feeling like heading back to Boise?
Great. I mean, it's great being able to go into the bye week with a win, and we just got to move on to our next opponent. So
there he is, Jaden Virgin Morgan again. 8 sacks for Boise State's defense, and I know it was super frustrating for some of you guys, and they're giving up a lot of 3rd downs, 3rd and long, and it just seems like, they can't make a stop, and Hawaii's moving the ball, and then you look up, and Hawaii has 7 points and like 278 yards of offense. I think they finished with, 15 rushing yards tonight for Hawaii? I mean, they didn't even really try to run the ball at all, and I know that's not one of their strengths at all, but that's going to help Boise State's season totals. 15 rushing yards on 24 attempts for Hawaii. They do pass for 264 yards, so those numbers are going to continue to not look great. Was it Amarian McCoy, I think, that had an interception go right through his hands, and then it looked like Hawaii was going to convert and move the ball right after that. So This defense still just snake bit, cannot get the takeaways, cannot get the turnovers. But overall, I still thought at times when they looked like they were struggling, the overall numbers, again, are pretty impressive for this defense. So big shout out to Jaden Virgin Morgan and this whole defense, Eric Chenander's group for, again, putting together a really nice performance against one of the better offenses, one of the better passing offenses in the Mountain West and in the country. For them to hold them to 7 points, I thought was, ended up being one of their better games of the season. Hey, let's take 25 seconds and thank a few of our sponsors.
Bronco Nation News is presented by RowPaint.com, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, by Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Western Collective, by Jackson's, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Bauscher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, by Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and by Timberstone Golf Course.
All right, back here on the post-game show. Appreciate all you guys for sticking with us here. They're giving me the signal they need to get me out of the press box here. I guess the security guy's trying to lock up or something. So I've got a story to write still. I've got some video to upload, a lot still to get to. So we'll get an Uber back to the hotel and keep on working here. So it's about 2:34 a.m. back in Boise. When you guys wake up tomorrow morning, you'll have a full, fresh story to read about this game. You can go watch post-game interviews, some highlights, a lot of different stuff that will get posted on the website. So Bronco Nation News, again, the only local media outlet that made the trip, and it would not be possible without your subscriptions and you guys supporting our sponsors and our sponsors supporting us here at BNN. So thank you guys for allowing Bronco Nation News to be here. Hope the pregame show and the postgame show were worth the trip over here for you, and again, worth your subscription. So again, if you missed any of our interviews with Rachel Danielson, Jeremiah Dickey, a lot of stuff on the pregame show, you can go back and watch that. And then obviously 90-plus minutes here on the postgame show as well from Hawaii. So thank you to Mike Sanford for kicking off the show and getting that done for us. And thank you to all you guys for staying up late with us, 2:35 in the morning back in Boise. So RowPaint.com, our title sponsor. Make sure you go support them, ROEPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. So make sure you support them. And again, Western Collective, all of our sponsors. We did have a couple voicemails on the Signature Roofing voicemail line, but not enough time to get those into the system. We'll play those on Monday morning with Mike Prater. So thank you to Signature Roofing as well, mysignatureroofing.com. They're going to be doing a new roof for the Rains family here pretty soon. We'll be telling you more about that process as well. But thank you guys again. The team is heading to the airport. They'll be leaving in the next 90 minutes or so. They're probably not going to get back to Boise till somewhere around 10 a.m., but that's going to be a nice quiet flight. I'm sure they'll get some sleep. And there's going to be a lot to clean up, but a lot still to like about pulling that out and getting the 28-7 win over Hawaii. So again, if you're on the fence, hopefully today's coverage and the fact that Bronco Nation News was the only outlet that came over here is enough to convince you to get a subscription. We'd love to have that $50 using that promo code at the bottom of the screen, BNN50 deal. If you can help us out, we'd love it. We also have a $6.99 a month option. If you're unable to do that, at least at a minimum, if you can like our video on YouTube here and hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel, we would really appreciate that as well for all your support. So tell your friends, like the videos, share the videos, retweet them, subscribe to our social media channels. And again, if you can help us out, go support the sponsors. Go buy a car from Lithia Ford. Go buy some food at Taco Bell and Lean Feast, and support all the sponsors, because we cannot be the only local outlet that made the trip and put in the expense to come over here to Hawaii if it wasn't for our great sponsors that helped out and made this possible. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for sticking up with us at 2:37 in the morning now. Again, going to get back to the hotel, write the story. A lot still to get to, and we'll be working for a couple more hours. When you wake up, hopefully you'll see a fresh story online, and you'll subscribe so you can read that at BroncoNationNews.com. So thanks again to Mike. Thanks again to everybody else. Grand Tetons, DoorDash, Taco Bell, because of the show last week. Appreciate that. Thank you, Grand Tetons. Appreciate that. I'm sure Taco Bell will as well. We'll spread that on. But, support the sponsors. Take pictures, post it on social media, let the sponsors know, tell the owner that it's because of what they do for BNN, and it all kind of goes around here. So thank you guys so much for your support. Hour and 40-minute show in the books. Again, if you missed any of the interviews, you can go back and rewatch this show in its entirety, and the post-game interviews are already up on YouTube as well. So thanks again. have a great rest of your evening, guys. Basketball coverage is coming. I'm going to be back in Boise for like 16 hours and then turn around and leave for Las Vegas for Basketball Media Days. We'll have full coverage Wednesday and Thursday for Mountain West Basketball Media Days in Las Vegas. So no bye week for Bronco Nation News. We got a lot of coverage to get to on the basketball front and the football front, for that matter, this week. So thank you. Go watch the pregame show. Go watch the rest of the postgame show. And we'll talk to you Monday morning. Appreciate it. Bronco Nation News Live, the Blue and Orange Store postgame show. Again, final score 28-7. Go check out Blue and Orange Store, all your Boise State gear. And we'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com. Boise State 5-1. They're rolling. Ashton, Jenty's rolling. It's a good time to be a Boise State fan. And we appreciate you for checking us out. Have a good rest of your night, everybody. We'll talk to you later.